once upon a time, there was a big city, and the city was ruled by a wizard. And the wizard realized one day he could put everyone in this city in a prison. But it wasn't like a physical prison. He didn't have to build it. He just imprisoned them in their own fears. So all these different fears he used, he got them to be afraid of death. That was a big one. And he got them to be afraid that their loved ones might die. He got them to be afraid of what other people thought about them. So they never wanted to stand out from the crowd and do anything that was looked silly. He got them to be afraid of losing their steady job, because then they might not be able to provide for their family and might lose their home and not be able to pay their mortgage and all these things. So there were many different things that he used to get them afraid. So they stayed imprisoned because he got them to do all these things. And even if they thought, I don't really want to do that thing, they were so scared that they thought it's much safer and easier and more sensible just to do these things, even if I don't want to do them, because I'm scared. So that wizard was very happy with this situation because he could imprison everyone. They would do whatever he wanted. So he had lots and lots and lots and lots of slaves. However, there were a few people in the city, and they had this treasure within them. And this treasure was that they could always feel free, that they could always feel powerful and safe and joyous and connected, whatever the circumstances that they found themselves in. I'll give you an example. So there was this wonderful lady called Frida, and Frida loved to go to pubs and wine bars and socialize with people. She loved connecting with people in that way. She also loved nature. She loved going to garden shows and botanical gardens and farms, and she just loved all of that. She loved nature. It's one of her favorite things. And she also loved adventure. So she liked to get on airplanes and helicopters and all sorts of different ways to travel to different cities and lands. And but because she felt like she didn't want to be imprisoned by the wizard and she wasn't scared of him, she just didn't do what he was asking her to do. And the wizard didn't like this very much at all. So he said, right, you're going to lose your job. I'm going to take away all your money. Your credit cards don't work. You're on the street. You've got nothing. So Frida went out onto the street and she realized, what are the things I love? Well, the pubs and the wine bars and all of that, it was just about connecting with people. And I can still chat to people. I can still connect with people. So I still feel good. I'm doing one of my favourite things. And then she loved nature. And of course, she was very connected with the elements and could still connect with the squirrels and the birds and the trees. And so she felt she still had one of her favourite things. And the other thing, adventure, well, even though she couldn't get on a plane, she could still explore this city she lived within, every inch of it. And it was so big, the city, that there was loads to explore. So the wizard wasn't very happy with this because she was still free, she was still happy, and she still wasn't doing what he wanted her to do. So he said, right, I'm going to put you in a prison cell. You'll be all on your own. I'm going to take away all your freedoms that way. So Frida went into this prison cell and she realized, even though I've got no one else in here with me, I've still got all the memories of all the people that I have chatted to over my life, and I kind of feel that even just kind of using my imagination, I can still talk to them. And in fact, I really feel connected to them, the people alive or dead that I've known, and I can talk to myself and have conversations with myself. And there's a little fly on the wall. I can have conversations with that. I can talk to the prison guard sometimes. They have conversations with me a bit. So actually, I'm still doing one of my favourite things. And back to the fly, because one of the things she loved was nature. But she didn't need to go to botanical gardens or anything like that, because there was nature within her prison cell. There were little insects that she got to know. From the tiny grubby window, she could see trees changing through the seasons. She was in touch with nature still, so she felt good. And the other thing, adventure. With a bit of creativity, she realised that this stain on the wall looked a bit like a map of a country she'd been in once. So she started to remind herself of all the different places she'd been in that country and the places she hadn't been as well. So she kind of imagined them on this map and started to explore that country in her mind. And then she realized that on the other wall there was all these different tiles on that, and some of them were different colors, and some of them... So what she did was she started to set herself these tiny little adventures. She woke up one day, was like, right, I'm just going to explore this section of the wall. And in doing that, she felt mentally well. She felt like she was still getting the sense of adventure, even though she was trapped in a prison cell. So the wizard wasn't very happy with this, because she was still joyous and strong and connected and free feeling, even though she was in a prison cell. So he executed her. He killed her. But the thing is, Frida had never really believed that she was just this body. She had this feeling that there must be something bigger, more eternal within her, without her, that was her. And she was right. So she wasn't afraid of death. And as she moved into that death experience, she realized this was a new adventure. She'd be even more connected with nature, with the universe, with all of that, and with every person and every being on many dimensions that she'd ever met. So she was still free. And nothing that nasty wizard could do to her would take away that freedom. And Frida was not the only one. There were a few others. And over time, it did take a little bit of time, but over time, others who were more hypnotized by their fears started to look at the example of these people who were free and kind of want that feeling, that good feeling. So they started to realize, some of them, that they had this treasure within them too. And this grew over time. And eventually, the majority of the people realized that they could be free, that they were still powerful, that they didn't have to be fearful of the things that the wizard had made them fearful about. So they overthrew the wizards, and they created a whole new wonderful earth together. The end.